Welcome back to the Bourbon Note, everybody. I'm Ben. I got a budget bourbon banger on the bar. Let's get into it. So on the bar tonight, I've got a sample. Bam, this is Rebel 100 proof. And this is courtesy, another sample from my friends over at Bourbon School, Brian, Lauren, and Marianne. Go check out their channel. This was in a sample pack that I won. And I actually wanted to do a quick review of this because I've actually only had Rebel 100 one time, and it was probably 3-4 years ago now. And so this being like a budget-friendly, I think it runs about, $18 around here. It's always nice to find those ones that are budget-friendly that are actually good. I do like to keep those on my shelf. We had a conversation on the Whisky 6 last time. By the way, if you're not subscribed to the Whisky 6, go check that out. That's me, Bourbon School, Bourbon Drop, Bad Axe Bourbon, and then Sean from Whiskey Wars / Mash and Metal. And then we always have a guest on. We do live streams twice a month on Thursdays. So yeah, go check out the Whisky 6. Anyway, getting back to the bourbon at hand here. We had a conversation about whether or not we as Whiskey channels should still be recommending budget bourbons. And I say absolutely we should, because I think it's good to have some good bourbons for every price point. Now, I'm not saying like recommend a budget bourbon like, hey, just buy this and that's all you'll ever need because it's inexpensive and good enough. I'm just saying it's good to kind of have like maybe like a little mental list of some of the better pours within each price range. So this being a sub $20 bottle, at least around here, for a $7.50 at 100 proof, I want to try it out. It's a wheated bourbon, if I remember correctly. And back when I actually had this a few years ago, this wasn't available in Minnesota. It is now. I just haven't picked up a bottle, and I've been meaning to. So let's get into the sample and find out if this is worth maybe me going and picking one up. On the nose, it's a tad bit youthy, but it actually has some nice notes. It definitely has the wheat note, the kind of bready sort of note to it. A little bit nutty, kind of like a I know I said before on Maker's products, like an almond biscotti sort of aroma. It doesn't really smell like a Maker's product. I think Maker's, as weeders go, I mean, they kind of have their own unique profile. But this one definitely has a very, very sweet, there's a little bit of like shortbread. Maybe that's what I'm kind of getting here. And it's got kind of some light caramels, but honestly, it smells really good. Really nice, sweet, but a tad youthy. Let's see what happens on the palate. Cheers. I dig that. I actually really like that. It's a little weak on the mid palate, and this is my first sip of whiskey for the day, but that first, like right up front, there's a really nice, the 100 proof comes through right up front, and it has a nice spice to it, actually. Like sweet and spicy at the same time. It's a bit of kind of like the caramelized wood sugars. It's got the spice to it that's almost textured, like the granular texture when sugar in something. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's very real to me. And then the mid palate does kind of fall off, and not a ton on the finish, but the mid palate, it kind of loses. I feel like it drinks less than 100 proof, which isn't always a bad thing, but it drinks a little bit weaker. But again, this is my first sip of bourbon for the day, so I'll definitely have a few more here. But on the mid palate into the finish, really, really nice, sweet. The caramel comes through, and it's almost like a caramel ice cream topping, like caramel drizzle, kind of mixed in with that bready and shortbread note. That first sip, I was really super into. Let's see what happens on the second one. This, on the second sip there, definitely still got that nice bite and kind of wood sugars up front. But on that second sip, a bit of black pepper along with that. And then that kind of gave way to the wheat flavor, the caramels. And That shortbread note still there. So it's not changing much aside from just that first kind of hit on the tip of your tongue, that black pepper note. And I think this is actually making for a really nice whiskey, to be perfectly honest, given what it is. Now, I'm not going to put this up against something that's, like a 100 proofer that's a 10-year or a 12-year and expect it to come out on top, although strange things do happen in blinds. I'm not saying that this drinks on a level above maybe what you would expect it to. Actually, you know what? I will say this drinks above the sub $20 proof point. Let's go with that. But I'm not saying that this is, going to compete all that well with, some higher tier bourbons. But for what it is, I think this makes for a nice budget-friendly pour to keep on the shelf that you could either do in cocktails, although for the kind of cocktails that I would make, maybe like an old-fashioned or something like that, and maybe like a higher rye bourbon instead of a wheated bourbon. But honestly, sometimes it's nice to have a good budget-friendly whiskey that you actually enjoy if you want to just sit with your friends and kill a bottle one night, hanging out, and you don't want to just, plow through an expensive bottle, but you still want something that has good flavor. I think this is good for that. I will probably pick up a bottle of this just to have one on the shelf. Let's go in for one more sip before we get out of here. Actually, that did change a little bit on the last sip. A little bit more oak. And I don't know what the age of this is, but I imagine it's not terribly well aged considering the price point. But on the nose, those youthy notes, I'm not really noticing them too much on the palate. I think that those kind of caramelized wood sugar notes that I was talking about up front, along with the oak I got on that last sip and that black pepper vibe up front, kind of give it a little bit more of a, like it's not coming across as too young. I'm not saying it's coming across as well-aged, but it gives it a little barrel influence. And then, some of that sweetness buried underneath it throughout the mid-palate. The finish is very short. There's not really much to be said there, but, maybe you're not going to get that on a $20 whiskey. But overall, I got to tell you, I like this, actually. Everything I said before. If you're looking for a decent budget pour, you want to sit and smoke cigars and play cards some night and crush a bottle of whiskey that you don't care about, but still are probably going to enjoy, I could use this for that purpose. So, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. I got to imagine most people have probably had this since it is a readily available budget pour. But then again, some people just don't really dabble in budget bourbon. So anyway, let me know if you have had this, what you think. Please like, comment, and subscribe. This has been Rebel 100 on the Bourbon Note. I'm Ben. See you in the next one.